What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. Today we are actually in Brazil recording the top 10 decks as we head into the Poland regionals. So we've seen the first Paradox Rift major event, lots of exciting changes with Miraidon and Entei Iron Valiant making the finals of that event in the Masters division, and of course plenty of other surprises. There's going to be plenty of inspiration in this video for those decks, so be sure to check out all the decks available in this video. While I'm traveling, I might not be able to put the copy and pastable list, so you might have to go for a simple screenshot. But before you do that, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, let us know in the comments what you think the top 10 best decks are. If you're missing any of the cards for these decks, be sure to head over to PTCGLstore.com, AtlasTCG.com, or DecoGaming.ca to pick up your Pokemon singles, PTCGL store codes, and sealed products using the Shuffle Squad's discounts available in our description. That being said, we got a lot of ground to cover, so let's jump into our number 10 pick. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Kicking things off on our list is going to be Fusion Mew. Now, Fusion Mew has seen some success at the Latin American International Championships, and it has to do with the fact that this deck is a combination of aggressive attackers with Mew VMAX and Meloetta. You have opportunities to pivot into some bench snipe damage with Ice Cube. And of course, we've got a bag of tricks. You can see that there's some new cards here, such as Professor Turo, that we can use to kind of lift up one of our Pokemon in play. Maybe it has some damage on it. Maybe it's just a Pokemon we no longer want to have in play. Like a lot of the Fusion Mew builds, we've turned into a hybrid Path Mew build, and that's because we have access to Path, we have access to Judge, we have access to Iono. Not as much as a pure Mew DTE Path build, but we kind of have that in between where we're a turbo deck, we have a little bit of disruption, and that's really what allows this deck to remain within the top 10. So if you're looking for a relatively solid go-to deck, and I mean, you could really build this deck with one of those Mew VMAX League Battle decks, this would be a really great place to kind of explore the format if you're a Mew player, or if you're looking to try something new. This is a really cool deck, giving you its chances while it's still in format. We don't know when our rotation is going to be, but it's got to be somewhere up soon. So that's what we got at number 10. Don't forget to put your best guesses for the rest of the video to see what we have 9 all the way to number 1. Or feel free to put any decks that you think are missing from this list and let me know. I do get back to all comments. Let's jump into our number 9 pick. In our number 9 spot, we have Mew VMAX again, and I promise you're not seeing double. This version is a little bit different. This is the pure Path version of Mew that's really going to be going for a little bit more of a disruptive approach. So where the other version had other things that were like, you can use Meloetta for an aggressive start, or maybe you wanted to use Ice Cube to snipe your opponent's bench, we are going to be using Path, and then Judge, and then next turn we're going to be going Lost Vacuum, using all of our Fusion Strike system abilities with Genesect, and then we're going to be copying Techno Blast over and over again. We don't really have anything too crazy here. I think the only new card that we have is going to be Technical Machine De-Evolution, but maybe we could Path Judge our opponent, lift up all their Pokemon back into their hand, and hit them with some grabbers or take some things out of their hand before that. There's some cool things that you could do with this deck, and I don't think it's necessarily perfect, but Path Judge is one heck of a combo, and it's really what we got going on with this Mew deck. I promise this is the last deck with Mew VMAX in it on this list, but we had to put those 2 decks because they did perform quite well at the Latin American International Championships, whereas other decks that might be omitted from this list, I don't want to surprise anyone, didn't necessarily perform as highly. So that's really where we got Mew starting things off. But we do have a different deck in number 8, so let's see what we got going on with that. Jumping into our number 8 pick is a bit of more of a unique one, but it's Radiant Charizard, or as a lot of decks call it, SableZard. So this Lost Zone build focuses on getting some early splash damage with Cramorant, getting to that quick Sableye, and then really wiping things up with Radiant Charizard. Since we have Giratina in this deck now, we have a bit of an answer towards mirror matches so they can't Sableye as much, and of course we can stop Yoga Loop, which is becoming a little bit more apparent with Iron Valiant decks making the finals of at least 2 divisions at the Latin American American International Championships. This build also gains Counter Catcher, so you can do some crazy plays with Raihan plus Counter Catcher to get a big knockout with Charizard, or you could go Roxanne Counter Catcher to really put your opponent in a tough spot. We've seen other builds of Lost Zone Box, such as Lost Zone Turbo, Kyogre, even Lost Zone Roaring Moon. I think that this is probably the most standard default build that is not Lost Zone Tina. Overall, I think this deck is really good. However, I do find these Lost Zone decks are falling down a little bit down the ladder, not necessarily as good as what they once were. So take that as it is, but I do think that this build is quite strong for Lost Zone SableZard as we approach our new Paradox Rift format. Blocking its way into number 7 is going to be Snorlax Stall. Now, this build is seed top 8 at the Latin American International Championships, and we have a few card changes here as well. Whereas other builds have gone for adding an extra Iono or an extra Avery, I do think that Crabominable and a Water and Lure module do have an awesome amount of synergy when it comes down to it, and really adds a layer of decking out your opponent with this deck. How does this deck work? Well, Snorlax blocks your opponent's active Pokemon from retreating, and that can be problematic when we have Pokemon like Radiant Greninja in our format. If you're playing a deck like Chien-Pao, sure, you could attack with Radiant Greninja, but if you're playing a deck like Gardevoir, Radiant Greninja can't do anything. So if you don't play Switch, and you can't retreat, and you can't attack, how do you win? Well, if the Gardevoir player doesn't play Professor Turo, that can pretty much be it right there, and that's all that's going to be happening when it comes to this matchup. With 4 counter catchers and a couple bosses, and access to being able to get these cards back with Team Yelcheer, and access to Silene and Palpad, you can quite often lock a lot of decks out of the game, and if you hit the right matchups, this deck can certainly see success. It is a little bit, how do I put it? Fragile? Fragile. That's probably what we're going to be going with. But the deck has a chance to see success going forward, and I think with its current matchup spread, especially with the decks that just saw success in the finals of LAIC, we could see this deck being a really real play going forward. Again, it just top 8'd. Could it do more? We'll find out. Jumping into our number 6 deck, we have Chien-Pao with Baxcalibur, and it's also got its new friend Iron Hands to tag along for the ride. This deck works off of getting Baxcalibur being rare candied into, so Frigibax rare candies into Baxcalibur. You load up a bunch of energies onto Chien-Pao, but if you want to use Earthen Vessel to search out a lightning energy, you could easily do that and load up those energies onto Iron Hands and attack. We can get those energies back at any time with superior energy retrieval, and the deck works pretty well. There are a few different versions of this build. Some play cross switcher, some are going to be playing counter catcher, and we've even seen Iron Bundle to kind of work as like a half escape rope or something like that. This build is the one that kind of spoke more to me because I like 3 Chien-Pao. I like it more, a little bit more of a traditional deck. And I think this is the exact 60 that Ian Robb played towards a top 16 finish at LAIC. So this deck seems really good as long as it sets up. It's a little bit high rolly, a little bit inconsistent, but if it's working, you're absolutely blazing through most matchups in general. So be sure to give this deck a try. It is very good when it gets set up, but really its inconsistency is what's holding it back at number 6. If you made it this far, you've made it to the halfway point. Thank you so much for watching. We have Charizard EX with its Infernal Rain and Burning Darkness at our number 5 spot. And this is a list that's very similar, heavily inspired. Pretty much, I took it from William Azevedo and Pedro Pertusi that both made top 16 at the current Latin American International Championships. I had a gut feeling that Charizard with Pidgeot had to be a little bit better than the Charizard build that played Barrel and Toadstool. And I think I was probably right in that capacity. In this way, we are able to just have our same build that we saw for a long time. It's very consistent. The only key differences are, since we have Jirachi and Manaphy, we can play some lower HP Charmanders and Pidgeys. That does give us access to Call for Family, and Call for Family is going to be the same amount of HP when it comes to comparing it to an Iron Valiant deck. So 5 damage, or Pokemon with 50 HP and 60 HP are going to be the same thing with Iron Valiant. Still going to be tough matchup, but if we are able to evolve quick enough, we can get there. I do like Professor Turo in this deck, and I do like a copy of Artisan in this deck. So I have made a couple changes, but their addition of Justified Gloves to play against Roaring Moon is quite good, along with Vitality Band when other builds are playing Defiance Band. This deck's just really just going to try to go Rare Candy Pidgeot, Rare Candy Zard, attack, 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 attack. And that's really all we got going on with this deck. We've got a few tricks that we can search out with Quick Search, but this deck is relatively just straightforward, aggressive, and consistent. So that's really the reason why this build's seeing more success than the barrel build with Technical Machine Evolution. Psychic Embracing its way into our number 4 spot is Gardevoir EX with Screamtail. We've actually cut the Zacian V from this deck, and that's because we could just turn our deck into a single prize card deck, especially with Professor's Turo, allowing us to bump Gardevoir EX back to our hand. A lot has changed about this build, where we've added in Jirachi and Manaphy to have a better chance against the Iron Valiant deck, along with Lost Zone Box decks. We've also added Avery in our deck to try to disrupt our opponent's large bench sizes. So we got a lot of cool things going on here, but at the end of the day, we can Psychic Embrace our way to accelerating a bunch of energies to our Gardevoir, our Cresselia, our Gardevoir EX, or even a Screamtail. And feel free to toss on a Luxurious Cape onto that Screamtail to snipe for a bunch of damage. You don't necessarily have to even do that while you're normally playing the game. You could do that on the very last turn of the game, so your opponent cannot do anything to draw extra prize cards with Luxurious Cape. This is a pretty standard build going forward, so if you're looking to build Gardevoir, this would really be a build that would be fantastic for any upcoming events in the Paradox Rift format, based off a lot of the top players' lists, including our TSS teammates, Jeremy Gamila's list that he placed 17th place with at LAIC. So this is a list that I'm excited to give a lot of trying out to, and I might even cover a video on it in the next couple weeks. Again, heavy on the travel schedule, as you can see. I'm in Brazil, I'm in an Airbnb, I'm not even on my normal setup, by the way. I'm on my MacBook and an iPhone 15 Pro Max camera and all that stuff. It's a bit of a weird setup, but yeah, we'll see what we'll get with videos. We'll see how it goes, but right now this is what we got going on. Hopefully you enjoy this Gardevoir list. Let's see what we got for our top 3. These are really the decks that are defining our formats. Although Gardevoir, I have to say, even though it's 4th place, I do truly believe Gardevoir is the best deck in format. I just could not say that it's the best positioned deck in our format, because the top 3 in the deck, the top 3 decks are really trying to counter it at this moment. At number 3, we have Tina, that's Lost impacting its way into the top decks of the format. I've been a large Lost Tina advocate when it comes to playing this game. I think I had it at number 1 last week, and even though it didn't see the absolute best results at LAIC, I mean, it certainly plays highly, and I'm sure out there it's going to be Josh Frank crying at home, and Christian Ipo is going to be like, yeah, Tina, let's go. Gotta give a shout out to my friends while they're out there, but yeah, we've changed up the build a little bit, where we got Cramorant being 2 copies in this deck instead of 1 copy in the deck, and that's so that we can aggressively go for the 110, whereas Sableye is getting countered a little bit more with Jirachi seeing success in this format. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the decks on this list play Jirachi, and that's something that we can see. Really, the big change for this deck is going to be Countercatcher. Countercatcher allows us to go Roxanne Path, Countercatcher in the same turn, maybe go for a Star Requiem, and really hurt our opponent. We've also added Water Energies back into this deck, because there's a lot of decks like Gardevoir that we want to just throw some whatever Radiant Greninja's attack is. I forget, but that's what you get when you're half asleep trying to record a video while you're traveling around the world. So that's what we got going on with this list. I hope that you enjoy how it looks out. I really don't see any issues at all. This is pretty much my stock perfect Tina list. If I were playing a tournament tomorrow with Tina, I have it sleeved, ready to go 100% in deck list order, ready to write out a deck list at any moment. You should probably have a Tina deck like that ready to go too, because Tina is very good. Might be a little bit inconsistent at times, but can certainly see some success. Burning its way into our number 2 build is going to be Iron Valiant with Entei V. Now, this is a deck that we've seen make finals at the Latin American International Championships, but my friend Tyler Zakoris and I have really been cooking up our own build for a while, and we were this close to playing it for LAIC, but we decided that our build was not really where we wanted to be, and I went ahead and played Jolteon Iron Valiant, which didn't make this list, but it's a really cool deck. If you haven't got a chance, check it out on my Twitter, or maybe I'll even cover a video about it. The whole goal about this deck is to ping a bunch of things with Tachyon Bits, using your switch card, escape rope, and even the future booster energy capsule. That's a mouthful of a word. And go into a Metacham and maybe take an extra turn against some small HP'd Pokemon. If we're not playing against small HP'd Pokemon, we can do all of that and use that with Burning Rondo to do a lot of damage based off how many Pokemon we have in play. We'll certainly have a full bench. Our opponent might not, though we can always manipulate the damage with Tachyon bits so that we are getting close to those knockouts or scoring those knockouts. Our build has a lot of really cool cards in it that I like, such as the Serena over the second boss, so we can maybe get some extra fire energies in our discard pile, using it as an extra draw supporter instead of just a gust supporter. Might be better as another boss. We'll have to test that a little bit more. We also could see Techno Radar being like a 5th battle VIP pass in a lot of ways, or even Hisuian Heavy Ball to be able to get out that Squawkabilly or that Medicham when you really need it. There's a lot of things that can be cool with this deck, and I think that this is going to be a generally strong deck going forward. So if you haven't picked up the cards already, NWVs are probably going to be a little bit expensive, but be sure to check out our sponsors at AtlasTCG.com, DeckoGaming.ca, and PTCGLstore.com to see if they have any available for sealed, singles, or PTCGL codes. Here we have it, our number 1 deck, and it's Miraidon EX that's riding its way all the way to the top. Now, Iron Hands has certainly given this deck some Iron Hands to see some success all the way against the metagame, and being able to knock out Pokemon with Ampy very much gives this deck a chance against single prize card decks, which it previously struggled against. And even when you're playing against decks like Gardevoir that are featuring 2 prize card Pokemon like Gardevoir EX, we can knock out Gardevoir from Chilling Reign easily with Ampy very much after they add some damage counters on themselves from using their ability Psychic Embrace. We have a lot of really cool things here, but the deck was very good. We saw it win the Toronto Regional Championships, and this being the last event, that being the last event before LEIC, we've really been able to see how this deck is like. We had a really solid build. We added Iron Hands into the deck. Ta-da, that's really it. We have double turbo energy to allow that to get a little bit easier to attack with Ampy very much, and being able to attack with Mew as well. So this deck, to me, seems like there's a lot of really cool things going on with it. Miraidon has a great matchup spread going forward. It just won LAIC, and as long as it doesn't get countered by a bunch of belly bolts that stop lightning Pokemon from being able to attack, that's probably a joke. We could see this deck seeing a lot more success at the upcoming regionals that we have going on this weekend. So is Miraidon going to be the best deck forever? Probably not, but right now is a really good time to be playing Miraidon, and this list is very good if you're trying to play any kind of Miraidon action. Be sure to check it out. Let me close things off. And that's what we got going on for this video today. I hope that everyone's enjoyed watching, learning about the best decks that we have in our format, and more. I think that this format's incredibly exciting. There's a lot of opportunities for decks to move within places. I mean, there's decks like on Roaring Moon, for example, that were previously higher up on this list, and now they're just not on this list. Same thing with Goldango. Can those decks see success at Brisbane Regionals or at Gdansk Regionals? I'm pretty bad at pronouncing things, but hopefully we see some success for some of those cool new decks there. Again, if you really want to help support the Shuffle Squad, feel free to do anything as easy as giving this video a like, subscribing, letting us know in the comments below if you like this video. If you want to take it to the next level, go to our Patreon at patreon.com/TSSWin to get access to Patreon exclusive articles, content, deck lists, and more. You got a lot of cool stuff going on there. And remember, if you're trying to buy any cards, go to AtlasTCG.com, go to DeckoGaming.ca, and PTCGLstore.com. I'm about to head out for my flight in about 5 hours from Brazil, so hopefully all my travels goes well, but I'll see y'all soon. I'm actually heading over to the regionals in Poland, so after a brief detour in the United States, I'm going to be on my way. So if any of you are out there, be sure to come up and say hi. We'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out, and have a great one. Hey trainers, tired of having too many cards lying around? I know that feeling, and I know what a hassle it is to try and sell those cards. But selling bulk is now easier than ever with TCG Bulk. Find tons of potential buyers in a single place. You just download the app, look for the best buyer near you, and carefully pack your bulk, ship it, and you get paid. It really is that simple. Turn the cards you don't want into the cards you absolutely need for your next deck. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.